Are you kidding me? Tom Homan is pulling up to Chicago with a message for woke Mayor Brandon Johnson, and it's not pretty, guys. Get in line or get prosecuted. That's right. The Border Czar himself, he says that Chicago is first in line for deportations and the woke mob is losing it. Not second, not third, not when we get around to it. Chicago is first in line for deportations. Meanwhile, furious Trump supporters are dropping brutal truth bombs on Mayor Brandon Johnson. And guess what, guys? The chaos is boiling over. We've been hearing a lot about this. In fact, you got gangbangers raging against Venezuelan migrants. And now the deadly Tren de Agua is making itself right at home in the windy city of Chicago. So how do we even get here? Like, how is this freaking happening here in America, guys? Now, if you are tired of watching your city turn into a chaotic mess, yo, let's hear it, because this is insanity. Hit the like button and subscribe.
The issue is not just how we respond in the city of Chicago. It's the fact that we have a governor, an elected official in the state of Texas that is placing families on buses without shoes, cold, wet, tired, hungry, afraid, traumatized, and then they come to the city of Chicago where we have homelessness, we have mental health clinics that have been shut down and closed. You have people who are seeking employment. The governor of Texas needs to take a look in the mirror of the chaos that he is causing for this country. This is not just a Chicago dynamic. He is attacking our country.
Trump and Tom Homan, we need you to please come in Chicago and lock Brandon Johnson up if he try to stop you from coming in our neighborhood and getting these illegals out of it. We, the Chicago citizens, and we, the American citizens, want this. We welcome you. Please come to Chicago and make an example out of Brandon Johnson if he tries to stop you from coming in and getting these illegal aliens out of our neighborhood. And definitely don't forget about Pritzker as well.
If your Chicago mayor doesn't want to help, he can step aside. But if he impedes us, if he knowingly harbors and conceals an illegal alien, I will prosecute him.
And guys, before we get going, I just want to say thank you all so much for hitting the like button and subscribing. Let's jump in. Border Czar Tom Homan is preparing his hammer for woke Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson. So Johnson, who's now infamous for lying to every citizen in the city about taxes, he is facing a lot of backlash. As you guys may remember, Johnson ran as mayor with the promise of not raising property taxes. With his current budget request, it's expected that he'd need almost $70 million in tax increases. Residents can also expect to pay more on weekend parking rates, the cost of a plastic bag, streaming services, and congestion tax on weekend ride shares, completely dismissing his own campaign promises. But get this, guys. Within the last 2 years, Chicago has also set aside more than $400 million to be spent on illegal immigrants. That just blows the tax increase that they would need out the water. But as you guys heard from Brandon Johnson, this isn't his fault, even though his city is considered as a sanctuary city. This is one of the primary reasons as to why citizens and residents of the city are calling on President-elect Trump and Border Czar Tom Homan. They know that they have a huge problem on their hands, a problem that their own mayor just doesn't want to address, even though we know for a fact that it endangers the lives of his constituents.
Tom Homan setting his sights on Chicago, pointing to Donald Trump's campaign promise to deport the undocumented.
I want to be clear. If you're in the country legally, you're not off the table.
Among those attending, Chicago Alderman Raymond Lopez arguing for the elimination of Chicago's sanctuary city status.
Change the welcoming city ordinance so that we are not giving sanctuary to those individuals who, once they are here, choose to willingly engage in criminal, dangerous activity.
Homan calling on Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson and Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker not to impede the Trump administration's deportation efforts, but a spokesperson for Pritzker in a written statement pushing back. Rather than responding to every ridiculous boast from Trump lackeys, Governor Pritzker is focused on what he was focused on during the first Trump term, leading our state with competence instead of chaos. U.S. Representative Delia Ramirez, the daughter of immigrants, reacting as well. Tom Homan, the next time you come to Illinois District 3, a district made stronger and more powerful by immigrants, you better be ready to meet the resistance. Democratic senators on Capitol Hill, including Illinois' Dick Durbin and Tammy Duckworth, urging President Joe Biden to take executive action to protect immigrant families. Mass deportations would jeopardize the safety and security of millions of mixed-status families, the senators say, sowing deep distrust and fear in the communities we represent and destabilize the U.S. economy.
Now, some Democrats are certainly putting up a strong face, which is kind of odd given that they lost the election because of this. Besides the high cost of living and inflation, illegal immigration is seen as a key issue for voters, which means that these elected officials are going against what many Americans are asking for. A majority of this country is pleading for mass deportation. A lot of us are scared for our own safety, which is what makes this entire argument from Democrats that much more confusing. It's almost like they're openly lobbying for criminals to be kept inside the cities in their districts. Meanwhile, they break their promises and expect U.S. citizens to keep footing the bill. It's also why Mayor Brandon Johnson's proposed changes are still getting some pushback, even though some officials within Chicago are willing to give him the money that he wants. Money that's coming out of our pockets as American citizens.
We need to do this. We need sustainable revenue. One-time fixes are not working, will not work. And so we're looking at revenue that can be sustainable and looking at cuts and efficiencies.
This latest version of the mayor's budget includes a $68.5 million property tax hike, but no layoffs.
Like most budgets, you never get everything that you want in a budget, but I'm happy that we've brought down the amount of taxes that we're going to have to do.
Some alders remain concerned about any property tax increase and have issues with the budget itself. The city council already rejected the mayor's initial budget, which included a $300 million property tax hike and a second $150 million property tax hike.
The residents of the 13th Ward have no appetite for a property tax increase, so I'm going to be a no. I was a no on the $300 million. I was a no on the $150 million. I'm going to be a no on the $68 million property tax increase. We need to do a better job of right-sizing city government.
Today's budget proposal also includes additional revenue derived from a rideshare congestion tax, raising weekend parking rates, and an increase in the price of checkout bags to 10 cents.
What we're seeing is a nickel and diming of our residents on top of the fact that we're asking for $104 million more in property taxes than we were last year. You know, the only way out of this is to grow our economy, not suppress it.
Despite the opposition, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson says his proposed budget looks to serve the people of the city of Chicago.
That's what's right about this budget. It invests in people. We don't cut services and lay people off. And my team is working regularly with the governor's team to find progressive revenue.
How would you feel if taxes and expenses were raised in your city to pay for the services of other people? And we're not talking about homeless veterans or struggling seniors on Social Security. We're talking about illegal immigrants who the Biden-Harris administration have let into the country with open arms. And yet you have woke mayors like Brandon Johnson touting the fact that the people of Chicago will have to pay more for services that they already deserve. It just doesn't make any sense as to how they keep voting for these people. Now, speaking of which, we might need a complete overhaul of the Secret Service. I covered this in a previous video where they endangered the lives of President Joe Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris, and even incoming and Vice President Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. Now, I understand we all have different opinions about these people, but the simple fact remains that they are our leaders, which means that this is a huge lapse on the judgment of the Secret Service. So make sure you guys check that video out after this one. As always, appreciate you guys being here. Thanks so much for hitting the like button and subscribing. We'll see you guys on the next one.